Good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream, and today is July the 6th. I'm brought to you by Hope Through Navigation, and this is our Hood Recovery Services. If you need to reach me, please reach out to me at Recovery of Hope 21 at gmail.com. Let me repeat that, Recovery of Hope 21 at gmail.com. Well, let's go ahead and get into the reading for just for today. Let's see. All right. It's entitled I'm Sorry, July 6th. The main thing the eighth step does for us is to help build awareness that little by little, we are gaining new attitudes about ourselves and how we deal with other people. That comes from the basic text, page 39. To say I'm sorry probably isn't such a foreign ideal to most of us. In our active addiction, it may have been a very familiar phrase. We were always telling people how sorry we were, and were probably deeply surprised when someone, tired of our meaningless apologies, responded with, "You sure are. In fact, you're the sorriest excuse for dot, dot, dot." That may have been our first clue that an "I'm sorry" didn't really make any difference to those we harmed, especially when we both knew that we just do the same thing again. Many of us thought that making amends would be another "I'm sorry." However, the act we take in those steps is entirely different. Making amends means to make changes and, above all, to make the situation right. If we stole money, we don't just say, "I'm sorry, I'll never do it again now that I'm clean." We pay the money back. If we neglected or abused our families, we don't just apologize. We begin to treat them with respect. Amending our behavior and the way we treat ourselves and others is the whole purpose of working the steps. We're no longer just sorry, we're responsible. Just for today, I accept responsibility for myself and my recovery. Today, I will amend some particular thing I'm sorry for. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the reversion of the serenity prayer. A moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Today's reading is a serious reading. Uh, it's talking about the difference between saying that you're sorry and actually being sorry, heartfeltly, right? And changing the way that we behave. We're talking about the eighth step, but we're also talking about the ninth step, right? Because the eighth step is we make a list of all the people we have harmed, right? And then the ninth step talks about making direct amends wherever possible, except for when to do so, but injure ourselves or others. Okay. So that requires wisdom. You have the knowledge and you can apply it properly. That is called wisdom. Okay. So here we are, and let's say um, in our active addiction, we had someone that we stole money from, so that we could take the money and go get drugs. And they have no idea that we've been taking money out of their bank or their stash. They have no idea. Now, we want to approach this with wisdom, which is the proper application of knowledge. We want to approach it with wisdom because we want to make sure that we don't avoid, we don't want to avoid making it an amendment just because we're worried about saving faith, right? The time to worry about saving face was when we were actually using, right? So now it's not the time to all of a sudden be worried about what we look like, what we're gonna sound like. So causing harm to ourselves, it can happen, but it's not likely. There are situations where we could cause great harm to ourselves. But more importantly, is admitting to this person that you've stolen money from them and you want to pay it back going to harm them. But let's think about that. If I had a sponsee that came to me and said, I stole money from my mother, she doesn't know, and it's time for me to make a direct amends to her, what do you think? I'll say, absolutely. I do believe that you need to make that amends to her. I believe she should go on your list. And I believe the amends should incorporate paying her back. Now, me, myself, I probably would say pay her back with interest, right? This is your mother that you've taken from for years. Give her back her money and add something on top of that amount, right? But how would you go about letting your mother that you know that you've been stealing from her? No, well, it's quite simple. It could be as involved or not as involved as it could be a phone call. It could be in person. It can happen in any number of ways. But the point that I'm making is that it needs to be done. But here's the caveat. Are you still a thief? Oh, come on, somebody. Let's just talk about that. Are you still a thief? Because if you're still a thief, it makes a little sense to try and make an amends for stealing money from someone and you still borrow and don't pay back. You still lie and cheat. You still cheat on taxes. You still take every nickel and dime you can from your husband or your wife and hoard it for your self. You have not changed. You are still a thief. Now, are you ready for that to change? Because that should have been addressed in your sixth and seventh step, right? Why do people steal? People steal generally because they have this ideal, this illusion that they need whatever that is, and they should not. They're entitled to it. They should not have to pay for that. A spirit of entitlement. Not really realizing as you are pickpocketing, as you are um, shoplifting, that the prices that everyone else has to pay goes up because you're a thief along with millions of other people. You're causing the prices to go up because someone has to pay for that product. And most certainly, if it's you as a kleptomaniac, it's not going to be you, it's going to be someone else. So you owe an amends to mom because you've been stealing from her. The real amends is not just in the apology and paying her back. The real amends is more deep than that. It's being able to look somebody's money in the face, seeing it on the table and not take it for yourself. Okay. Maybe you're ready for an amends at a certain level, but not at the deepest level. I would never tell a person don't make an amends because you're not ready at the deepest level. I would say get going on the amends. If you owe her $1,000, if that's as much as or little as you've taken from her, you need to get going on paying it back. I hope I'm making sense. I'm not trying to be harsh here, but I am trying to allow you to understand that I'm sorry is not enough. I would love to go on about this more and more because I have this teaching that I do in regards to what type of amends do you make. The amends should be made according to the error or the wrong that was caused. Just like a seamstress who is making a mend to a garment, when the person brings the garment to her or him and says, this knee, I fell, and this knee on my right knee on this pair of slacks, I have to have this repaired. These are my favorite slacks and they're expensive. The first thing the seamstress is going to do is to look at the damage, because all of that material has become unraveled and made a whole. And she needs to know the best way to mend that tear. She needs to know what type of material it is. She needs to know what sort of needle to use. Now, say it's your leather couch and you're calling someone in to do work on your leather couch to mend a cut in your leather couch that happened accidentally. The way that they mend leather is different than the way they would mend a pair of slacks or even chiffon, right? A material that's very see-through and lightweight. So your needle, your tool that you use to make your amends has to match the type of injury that has been caused. If you abuse people physically, you've been beating your wife and your children, or maybe you're a woman and you've been bullying and beating your children, the amends that you need to make is different than the ones that you would make to your mother who you've been stealing from. But please do not be mistaken. The amends that you make is going to include ceasing to act the way that you've been acting. This is serious, people. That's why I say that the tools that you get as a result of working the steps are like none other. You can take this program and apply it to every area of your life. That's why the 12 steps said that you try to carry this message to the still suffering addict and practice these principles in all our affairs. It's very much possible. My name is Mighty Stream. I've enjoyed your company and I will talk to you tomorrow.